especially like over the last 3 years since I was diagnosed, people will always say to me, can I bring you anything? Can I do anything for you? Is there anything I can do? And of course there are small little things, but running a marathon was never on the list of things I thought somebody would do for me. And when I think about it, it is overwhelming sometimes to think people ran a marathon, all starting with the idea of doing it for me, with me.
It was soccer that brought this group together originally. Everyone clicked. Everyone was part of a special circle of friends. Diane was also planning to wed the love of her life.
It was about 2 months before the wedding, and I had a pain in my abdomen for a couple of days, and I called my physician and I talked to her about it. She wasn't really worried about it. It could be so many different things. But after a couple of days, it continued. So it had been about a week. So I called her, it was late in the day, and she said, it could be appendicitis. That's something that I wouldn't be able to treat in the office, so why don't you go ahead and go to the ER?
We were planning a wedding. We were getting to start the next chapter of our life. And life itself flips completely.
She immediately experienced emergency surgery.
And so when I woke up, I found out that it was cancer. I had had a hysterectomy, they had done staging, and we would be getting more information in the next couple of days about how advanced it was. We were still going to have to figure out where that was exactly, but that meant stage 4. So that's as bad as it gets.
Her friends never left her side. Going with her to treatments, they would talk about family, goals, and her dream to run the Chicago Marathon.
So we were sitting at Siteman in South County and talking about the marathon and how I had volunteered before and had such a great experience. I had seen you before at the marathon in Chicago, and I wanted to do it. But I just couldn't do it that year.
Diane's friends were not going to let cancer keep her from her dream. They all agreed to run the marathon the next year.
They were asked if they wanted to run a marathon with me next year in Chicago. Would I have run a marathon for anybody? I don't know. I'd like to say that I would have, but I don't know. That's a huge ask. I mean, that is a huge ask. That's at least 6 months of commitment to running multiple times a week, of these women that have big families saying, nope, I'm gonna miss that practice this week, or I'm gonna miss that game because I'm training for a marathon. I mean, this was a huge commitment.
I was a little nervous about it because, I'm older than a lot of the girls who are running it, and I just thought, well, this is gonna be something. And then most of the training, I had plantar fasciitis, I had a back problem, but I was just like, we're in.
And this team of soccer players turned marathon runners devoted their race to raising money for the American Cancer Society to move closer to a cure for cancer.
I am a 7-year breast cancer survivor. When I signed up in June, which was late, it was $1,200 or $1,900. And I was like, and talked to my husband, and he said, well, let's just do the $1,900 and see what we can do. And I'm like, $1,900 is gonna be a lot of money. And bam, that night, one of the teachers that I used to work with, whose husband died of melanoma, donated $50 right that way. And I was like, whoa, these are people I never even thought about that would donate. And I thought that was gonna be the hard part, was raising the money. But it was the 19, 20-mile runs that were harder than I thought they would be.
Charlotte and I held a lemonade stand on the corner of Hearst Street in Kirkwood. We had our kids bake, and they made popcorn and they made lemonade. And the kids, they were out there all day, and they raised over $1,000. People would come up, people we didn't know, they would stop on the side of the street, and they would start telling their story. And it was really interesting and touching to see how a positive a lemonade stand can be for other people.
Some of them, I will say 95% of people have met somebody that had cancer or have a family member that had cancer, etc. So when you start putting your story forward and asking for donations, and people understand what you're doing and why you're doing it, you are always surprised of how much love comes back and how much support comes back. And to be honest, it was amazing. We ended up raising $22,000 as a team, which is incredible.
Race day came, and Diane knew she would not be able to keep up with her friends. But the experience of fundraising and being with her friends at the marathon was more than she could have ever dreamt for.
Well, I was excited to start because there were 10 of us that were all together in the last corral. And I didn't know at the time the other 9 people running with me had agreed to all stay together to run the first mile with me. So when we did that together, it was really emotional for me because I wanted to run it, but I didn't expect everybody to want to stay with me at my little barely moving, running, walking pace. So the fact that we all stayed and ran that 1 mile together, I mean, it really felt like that's how it should be. It meant so much to me because when I pictured what running a marathon with everyone together, that's what it would be like. We would all be there to start and support each other. And you know, I know 15 people can't run a marathon together. That's not the way it works. But the fact that we could run 1 mile together, you know, it was a really powerful moment.
So people would be shocked that I did this because I am bionic. I have a L4, L5 disc replacement in my back. They said I'd never run. I'd never play soccer. And I'm out there doing it. So during the marathon, at mile 14, I twisted my knee, and what kept me going is Di.
If somebody asked me, yes, the marathon gave Diane strength to continue with all that, of course. She's the real hero of the story here, but having this support and having all these people helping her and supporting her and being there for her has a physical effect on her well-being and on her mood and on her health. So yeah, I think it really helps.
I mean, I didn't have any doubts about the way my friends feel about me. I mean, I could tell you that before all of this. I know how much they love me, but I mean, I feel it now.